folks, welcome in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. Thank you for joining me on this lovely channel. How is everyone today? Are you all having a fantastic Monday? Did you have a good weekend? I'm super excited to be here again. My name is Ellie. I use she, her pronouns. I am a queer variety creator here on Twitch, and I am an It Gets Better project ambassador. I am super excited to be streaming here again today. This is the second in my series of game dev chats that we're doing. Today we are going to be featuring some lovely folks who are in super creative roles and have had to wear many different hats, not only in their current role, but in previous roles too. So we have a couple of indie devs with us today, which is super exciting. As always, folks, let me know if the sound levels are okay, especially when I get the guests in and ready and going. Let me know if everything is working correctly and you can hear everybody and the music's not too loud. You know, I'll leave the music playing while we are chatting. So thank you all for hanging out today. I appreciate it very much. So shall we get our lovely guests in here? Shall we get them in? I hope you're all ready. Hello, lovely guests. Welcome to the stream.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So today we have with us Maxi, Wes, and Calamity, who are all in super creative roles, different varying levels of design in different fields, and a couple of folks in particular have worn many different hats in their current role and in previous projects and things as well. So super inspiring bunch of people. I'm really excited to have you all here today. Thank you for joining me on the It Gets Better project channel. Would you like to start by introducing yourselves, letting us know a little bit about yourself, your pronouns that obviously are on screen, but also, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Sure, I'll bite the bullet. So, hey everyone, my name is Maxi or Sandra Molina, they, he pronouns. I'm a voice director, creative director, art director, whatever you pay me for, basically. And yeah, I work for a multitude of companies in Europe and in North America. And that is, and I also make my own game, yeah.
just a little game that you're making, you know.
5 years, what, how much time is that, you know?
Calamity,
I can jump in next.
Wes? Okay, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Yes, I'm Wes, my pronouns are he, they, and I've sort of done about 7 years in AAA, so Disney Infinity, Hitman, Sackboy, and I've recently sort of stepped into the indie scene, working at Bithell Games on stuff I can't talk about.
And I'm Calamity. My pronouns are she, they. I currently work as a freelance narrative designer and writer for both video games and tabletop games. I'm also sort of involved in a lot of production work for both tabletop and video games as well. And I've been in it for about the past 2 years, though I've taken a lot of skills from other places to apply to this. So it's kind of been a long time coming to this point.
It's super cool though. I'm so glad that we have you all and we have just like this wealth of knowledge here today. Like it's amazing. So we are going to be chatting both a little bit about kind of your game dev history, your history as a member of the LGBTQIA+ community, whatever you feel comfortable going into, of course. What it's like to be in the games industry as a queer person, and also the audience, feel free to submit any questions that you might have, whether it's for one person in particular or as a general sort of posing it to everyone. Do let us know if you have anything that you would like to ask. What made you all want to start working in games? Why did you choose this industry in particular? What was it that kind of gave you your start, and why video games? Wes.
Yeah, so I guess as with probably a lot of people, just I was a big gamer, and I think just trying to figure out how to make something that you enjoy a career is always like a pretty good way to go, I think, just generally in life. I think my school life was very kind of academic focus. Like the school I went to was very much like go to Oxford and Cambridge and become like a lawyer or a scientist and go that route. And I kind of wanted to break the mold a little bit and go down the creative side. And I think it was only really when I was looking for universities that I actually sort of realized that game dev was a viable career. Kind of took the leap at that point and haven't looked back ever since.
I love that. What was your first job in the industry? Like, how did you break into it? Because I feel like everybody has wildly different stories on this. It can be like the tiniest little role being an intern on something, or sometimes people just land in the deep end and like make their own game to start with, or, you know, there's all sorts.
So yeah, I guess for me it was, I went through university, so I did a master's degree, and as part of that, I started making this little project in my third year, like one of those group projects that everyone hates doing at like school and university. But it sort of went quite well. My lecturer saw a lot of potential in that, and I carried it forward into my fourth year. And during that process, I was asked to pitch it to Sony because they have their like PlayStation First initiative, where they basically just take like small games. Like I think they're quite keen on working with students and like getting them into sort of like a publishable state. So it was like a really small puzzle game, but I managed to get it released onto PS4. And then the whole time I was basically talking to the creative director at Sumo Digital, who took an interest in it, built a really good kind of like rapport with him. And then like, I think it was about 2 weeks after handing him my last assignment, he just asked me to come work for them. And yeah, that was basically it. It's scary.
That's super cool that you managed to like get that published and everything. I guess it's like everyone's dream when coming up through university in game dev, right? Is to have a published project like straight out the gate. Calamity, how did you get started?
So to get started in game dev specifically was actually because of the whole pandemic. I had been working as a performer and just honestly a lot of different jobs, but I did have a big passion for more like creative, productive things. I did film for a while. I did computer programming. I kind of had my foot in a lot of things, and then school stopped because pandemic and job and all that stuff. So then I sort of realized that I had a whole bunch of skills that could kind of go into game dev. And about 2 years ago, I started applying for internships and getting involved in programs like Code Coven. And yeah, it's just been a ride from there.
It has been fantastic to watch you go like this meteoric, just keeping on going, and it's been incredible. I've been friends with Calamity for a couple of years now, and like even in the short time I've known you, you've done so much, and it's amazing. So yeah.
We appreciate that.
Maxi, how about you? How did you get into making your own game?
Well, so I started working very, very early. Like right out of high school, I was working on comics. And, you know, I always wanted to work in video games. I was like, oh man, I love video games so much. I want to work on video games, but it never came up. Like, I was working on coloring comics. I was working for Blizzard. I was working for DC Comics. I was working for a lot of companies, right? But I never got to work in video games. And then by the time I was 21 years old, my wrist was like, you know that thing you do where you work a lot? Well, you won't go work anymore. Goodbye. And I had to stop and think, okay, now that I can't work what I wanted to work, what I knew anymore, I'm going to make a break for game dev. But I didn't know anyone, I had no contacts, I had no skills for game dev. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make my own game and I'm going to make a career out of that. So yeah, that's it.
So it was like not necessarily the intention, but you're enjoying it, right? You like making games.
No, I love making games. Like that's if I hadn't liked making games, I would have gone and become a lawyer or something. You know? Like I would have been a games lawyer probably, but no, like,
that's awesome though. What kind of, so we've talked a little bit about like how you got into games and stuff, like what kind of things do you do in your day-to-day role currently, and how has that like shifted from when you first started out and you were like kind of testing the waters, dipping your toe into game stuff? Like how, I know a couple of you have wildly changed your kind of like career trajectory like throughout. the last few years in particular. So Maxi, like what is your day-to-day kind of tasks right now, and how has that changed from when you first started out? Because you're doing your own game, but you're also doing voice directing and things too. So how do they differ?
Right, so it depends a lot on where I'm employed at the moment, right? Because I am a freelancer, and that's like, like maybe this week I have voice direction for X company, and now everything I do is, like day in, day out, I'm booking 2 hours every day to direct someone, then I'm going another hour to direct other people, right? Mostly managing calendars, so many calendars. But if I'm doing like a creative direction work for March Vice, for example, what I do is every day I show up in our Discord channel, because that's our office. We're completely remote, and I just I go like, okay, what's everyone up to today? What's the progress? What are our goals for the week? So calendars, a lot of calendars. That's pretty constant.
What kind of stuff do you do, like, in terms of when you're making your own game? Like, how essentially Maxi is producing and creating and making a visual novel, a playable visual novel, and there's got to be all sorts of different moving parts to that, right? So within producing it, you then have to make all the things too. So like, what kind of stuff goes into making that game?
Well, I do the art and the writing and the programming, and the sound effects, and the voice direction, and so a lot of things go into that. But the thing is, that's really fun to me. I love, like, I know where I am when I'm working, but when I'm not working, I love to just use that time to learn. And I don't have any producer, so I can be like, oh, well, I'm going to redo my art for the 7th time. No one can stop me. So, yeah, it's a way to let out steam of like, okay, maybe I don't like being managed all the time. Maybe I do better on my own. So that's kind of like how I go about it.
Nice. Wes, what kind of stuff is involved in your day-to-day as a designer, and how has that changed since you started out producing your own little projects in university?
So I guess, like, as a junior designer, sort of first steps in the industry, a lot of it is kind of like shadowing people. I think just seeing how other people are working and then kind of like getting as hands-on as you can. And sort of over the years, I kind of worked my way up to a lead level, and it kind of shifts quite dramatically from like very hands-on, and then your day becomes much more about like meetings 24/7 and kind of like just reviewing stuff. And then since I've kind of moved to just sort of like a more generalist design role, I've been able to get like much more hands-on. So my day-to-day is kind of like, you'll do your stand-up in the morning where everyone just kind of gets together and just sort of says what you're working on, kind of any problems, that sort of thing. And then the rest of my day is kind of spent either sort of writing up documentation, just kind of building stuff in engines, and then a key part of it is just kind of like a constant flow of communication. So the studio that I work at is fully remote, so it's kind of via Slack, you're kind of like always talking to people, having like impromptu calls here and there to kind of like work through problems together.
Nice.
Yeah.
That sounds very much like everyone who transitions into AAA. I don't think people realize that there is, or triple and double A. I don't think they realize that there is just like this huge portion of your day in game dev is not actually developing a game, it's talking to people, and like there's so many different moving parts that have to fit together nicely and well for the game to be cohesive, and so much of that is communications based, and I think that's a huge part of the game development process that people don't necessarily realize is a thing, which is cool. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Calamity, you work on multiple different things. How does your role like differ depending on the project that you're working on? Because I know you have different roles in different projects.
Yeah, definitely different roles in different projects, and some I'm producing and some I'm writing and some I'm doing more design, narrative, world building, lore and such. I would say that my day-to-day definitely starts with a cup of coffee and staring at my 4 different calendars, so I definitely feel the multiple calendars thing. But I think then it's all about like I kind of like echoing what everyone else has said is a lot of communication, a lot of meetings, and making sure that I'm still in line with whatever the contractor I'm working with wants, things like that. And then it's a lot of sitting down and looking at a blank piece of paper until I'm like, wait, and then I write for like 4 hours straight and forget to get up and eat. So, things like that. But yeah, day to day, it kind of varies depending on what I have to do. Some days are just like full of meetings, some days are more just like big writing days. And if I have a lighter day, I do tend to kind of get more into like learning and looking into classes because I never liked school, but I do love learning. So.
I love that. I mean, I think that there's one thing that the reason why I grouped you all together, right, for this specific episode is because of just the sheer like there is so much that you've all done, and you all understand that so much of game dev is needing to try on different things. You're not necessarily specialists in just one thing, and that's because you've had all these different experiences in different companies and different studios and in different roles and stuff, and I think that's like amazing. And it's funny that you all mentioned so much scheduling because of that, because you all have so many different things that you're doing every day, which is great. It's great. So I know that some of this might be under NDA as well. Feel free to not share if it is under NDA, but what kind of projects are you like currently working on? I know, Maxie, we've spoken a little bit about your game that you're making. What have you worked on in the past? And is there anything that you're like in particular that you're really proud of? It might be like a small part that you've had to play in a project, or it could be an entire thing, like the thing that you are the most proud of. Let's start with Wes.
So my current project, unfortunately, is under a very strict NDA, so I can't say anything about that.
Welcome to the games industry.
Yeah. You get very used to having this weird, like, secret life where you're not allowed to talk about it to anyone for like 5 years, and then you can say like, oh yeah, that's what I've been doing when it comes out. I think my favorite project that I've worked on was probably Hitman 2, because I was a huge fan of the franchise before, and that game is it's just such a playful thing to work on. Like, it's essentially a puzzle game, but it's got like loads of different layers to it, and it's kind of got like dark humor, it's got like a serious narrative, and yeah, there's just tons of fun that you can have with it. And working with the team at IO Interactive as well, they're all like wonderfully talented people as well, so that was like a massive learning opportunity as well. I think in terms of like my favorite moment of being a game developer was that franchise is very big on Easter eggs, and one thing that I really enjoyed doing was at a networking event I bumped into the people from outside Xbox, and I've watched their videos for like years and everything on YouTube, and I got chatting with them, and they did a series where they kind of make cocktails from recipes that they found in games. And so for Hitman 2, given that they're quite big fans of the franchise as well, I snuck in a recipe that was just like the most horrendous ingredients I could think of. So like chilies, like raw eggs, like loads of other stuff like that. Put it all in and then just like poached them on Twitter. I was like, like have a look around for it. And they made a video on it, and it was horrendous, and it was beautiful. Like, it was exactly as I'd planned, and I don't think ever forgave me for that.
So Roxandra in chat is saying, that was you?
It's called the Dragon Flame.
Oh my goodness. I love it when people share things like that, because I had a conversation with someone the other day about the chickens in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I was at UB for a little bit, wasn't directly involved in, like, I wasn't like a dev in the sense of like programming or like rigging or whatever. I was in the marketing department. But we made the chickens in Assassin's Creed Odyssey unnecessarily violent for no reason. And people were like, why is this a thing? And we were like, they just are. That's just how they are. And being able to do stuff like that is like super, super cool. And often there is so many hoops that people have to jump through to get Easter eggs into games. So the fact that you managed to do that is amazing.
Yeah, it was great fun. Years in the making.
And the fact that you managed to do it with like creators and people that you were already like excited about is super cool too. Yeah. Calamity, what sort of projects have you worked on in the past? Like, what are you the most proud of in your game dev career so far?
Yeah, I would have to say two that definitely stick out are I did an apprenticeship with Code Coven where I was part of an 11-week intensive to create a demo, and that was one of the wildest experiences I've probably ever gone through. That was kind of my first time as a producer. That's where I learned that I enjoyed producing, and I was working with like an international team for the first time. Like I was the only person from the US. People were literally from very varied places around the world, and just the fact that we got something playable out in 11 weeks while people were dealing with family stuff and holidays and life in general, it was kind of amazing, especially with how sort of chaotic the entire process is. And when I got accepted into the program, they were like, hey, do you want to be a producer, because your team needs a producer? And I was like, what does that do? And that was the beginning of honestly figuring out that I really do enjoy kind of being able to take care of the wellness of a team and make sure a project gets out with everybody as happy as possible, and also with a viable product that can be released on time. So all of that good stuff. And recently, actually, it just got kind of released. I worked a contract for a indie game called Rot Flesh, where I kind of went in and revamped the lore. I wrote like a whole lore bible for it. I created quests and dialogue, and it was my first time working with different systems because I've been in Unity the entire time. This was in Godot. I had to work with JSON files. It was a very daunting project when I finally like spaced it all out, and I was like, am I in over my head? Like, have I been kidding myself about getting into game dev? This is wild. And to finally finish it was amazing. But then in the past few weeks, to see the release and watch the devlog of what they did with that work has been just so rewarding and so incredible. So I'm really proud of that, especially because that was probably the first one when I said, am I kidding myself about this? Like, so yeah, I would say that's probably, the most rewarding. Definitely has been very recent, but cool.
It's always something that is so fantastic, seeing something that you have had even a tiny part in the hands of people who are enjoying it. Like nothing can quite compare to that feeling of seeing somebody like, wow, look at this, and like having the time of their lives with something that you've had a small part in making. So that's super cool, like getting to see something that you put so much energy into as well, like to revamp it and make it better, and having that out there must be awesome.
That I made that feeling never really goes away. It's always good.
I was actually, funnily enough, talking to someone the other day about how people get into production roles, because it seems to be that a lot of people, as you progress through your game dev career, you'll either keep with the creative or you'll go into management, like production management. And I think it's always like fantastic when I meet people who are starting out in their career in production, because they're like, no, I found this and I want to do it straight away because I love this so much, and I love spreadsheets and calendars and meetings and organizing. And people like you are a godsend to the devs in general. So yeah. Maxi, what kind of things have you done beyond working on the Hayseed Night and things? Like I know it's a little not necessarily difficult for you, but you have so many different roles that you are actively participating in, that like your projects must be super varied. Like, what sort of projects do you like to work on, and like what's been your proudest moment in game dev so far?
Well, first off, disclaimer, there's a marching band right below my street, so if you start hearing drums and stuff, I'm very sorry.
It's fine, it's perfect.
Anyway. Yeah. I got my own OST. So anyway, I've gotten to work on a lot of very small indie projects for voice direction, especially. And one moment I really loved, other than my favorite of them all is getting to do graphic design for the Steam community items of Space Warlord Organ Trading Simulator. Yeah, I got that right. So that's one of my faves. I met Salavir Nelson many years ago when I accidentally stole some chicken from him. So yeah, it's been good to work together.
I feel like everyone has a story like that. It's like, oh yeah, I accidentally like stood on someone or like elbowed them in the face or, you know, stole their food, and it's like you just meet people.
So other than that, the actual thing I'm really, really proud of is, for example, in Sword of the Necromancer, I got to voice direct in English, right? And I was directing a lot of different people there, and they were like, hey, you speak Japanese? Do you want to do a Japanese translation? I was like, yes, I do. And yeah, I got to work with voice actors in Japanese, and I wasn't I wasn't quite where I am right now in terms of like fluidness with the language. So I was like, make this more hero in Japanese, right? Like the hero, like, can you give me this line, but more like super wow. Okay, so somehow it was a good translation anyway. So because my directing style is very much in English, like, can you give me more to this line, please? So it translated well. So that was fun to try out. So that's definitely pretty much up there. Another one is for Mars Vice, which is a game I'm directing for Raw Labyrinths. We have the main character is a trans lion man who is bisexual. So I was like, okay, we need finger guns. So we have a devoted finger gun button, so you can use anyone all the time. So that's my greatest contribution to the history of video games, I think.
I love that so much. That's amazing. Ames has asked in chat, Maxi, how many languages do you speak?
I speak 6 languages. I speak Spanish, Valencian, English, Japanese, French, a little bit of German, and I also can read Arabic, but not speak it yet.
When I said that these folks are super talented and have this huge range of skills and things, I meant it. Yeah, you're all incredible. Like, these stories make me so happy. Do you have any specific advice that you would like to, not necessarily that you want to offer up to people wanting to do your roles, but just in general, folks who want to enter the games industry, whether it's for the kind of role that you do yourself or just in general, what would you like to share with someone who's considering joining games in general? Calamity.
I think one thing that I am still struggle with some days, but it's I think people have this idea in their head that they have to be given permission to start, and that's not true. Like, if you like want to start and want to do something, go ahead and pursue it. It's gonna start off messy, like it's not gonna look perfect at first. It's probably going to be some of your worst work, and that's good. That's a really good thing. Because I think when I started, I sort of found myself asking permission to try new things, but you just have to start. And I say that especially to marginalized identities, because I feel like in a lot of cases we feel like we have to be let into a room instead of just entering the room saying, hey, I'm here and I want to make games. So I would say definitely don't worry about like feeling like you need to be invited in. If you want to make games, start, in small ways by yourself. I know people have like different ranges of privileges and such, but any way you can, start getting your feet wet, start looking into things, start talking to people, and kind of like see where you land. That's what I've done, and ever since I started giving myself permission instead of having to wait for it, I have found a lot of really cool opportunities and been able to do a lot of cool stuff. So
there's also a lot of people who want to help too. Like, part of me doing this series, if folks aren't aware, this is a 6-episode series of live streams featuring, I can't do maths, but something like 25 game devs, all from the LGBTQIA plus community. The majority of folks are marginalized in different ways. We have I tried to get the biggest range of people that I can to show that like there are people who want to help, there are people who will share their stories, and this was something we spoke about a little bit last time, but even just being on social media, connecting with people on Twitter and stuff is like one of the best ways to get to know folks and find where that help is. Because yeah, you don't need permission from anyone to get started. You can go and seek that information yourself, but that can be incredibly daunting. So know that there is this huge community that are here to help and want to help and are excited to have you too. So yeah,
I will say that has been something that did surprise me getting into everything, is how many people were like, wait, you're into this? Here, let me get your contact information. Here's resources. Like, especially in a lot of these marginalized communities, like people know how difficult it can be out there. And there are so many incredible people who are willing to help. So just start, put yourself out there.
Yeah. What's the saying? A rising tide lifts all boats. It's very much like everybody wants to see everyone else succeed. There is the odd person who is not the best, but like the majority of folks in game dev, especially like Calamity said, marginalized folks, know how difficult it can be and really do want to help. So get meeting people. As scary as it seems, everyone is just a massive nerd and wants to talk about video games. So yeah.
I will add one more thing. As somebody who is ADHD and autistic and deals a lot with like social issues, I get it. It can be so scary, but you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it.
Maxi, what kind of advice would you have for people wanting to start out in any of the roles that you do?
Well, I have, right off the top of my head, I have 2 sets of advice. 1, I hope you like meetings. 2, don't spend 5 years making your first game. That's like, do as I say, not as I do, kind of thing, because like, you will learn as you go, and you will learn so much, and every time you make something new, you are like getting ideas out of it. You work with different people, you learn from them, and anytime you play a game, you learn from it too. Read a book, watch a film, do all sorts of things outside games. You will grow so much, because I've met a lot of people who were like, oh, I love video games, I only play video games. So you're going to be making video games from those video games you've played, right? But when you meet people, for example, who come from, I don't know, cinema, right? And you talk to them, and you know that, wow, your eye for photography is so freaking good. I'm like, you can see it in the games they make, right? Because they enjoy it so much. So do a lot of things outside just games, because all the paths lead to Rome. Whatever you start off, if you walk towards the goal you want, you will find a chance to get there somehow. You will be exactly the person someone needs one day.
Well, it's like Calamity said, you start, and it might be bad to start with, but you've started. As long as you keep going and you keep iterating and you keep learning and growing and trying to further your knowledge, like, you'll get there, and you'll make multiple things that you're incredibly proud of, even if it is a first project and it's tiny and you don't really like it by the time you're done with it. You'll be so proud looking back on that you actually managed to do that in the first place. So yeah. Wes, how about you? What are you most proud of, and what sort of what are you most proud of? What are you wanting to like share with the up and coming game devs?
So I guess there's a couple of things that spring to mind. I think the first thing kind of echoes Calamity's point of I think one of the most important ways to get your foot in the door is networking. I think it's all very well and good having this brilliant portfolio, but if no one sees it, you're not going to get a job. So as many kind of events where there's industry folk, like, just go to them as much as you can. If the social side of it is a bit of a barrier, then consider using like more online resources, or like target a portfolio to an audience that's going to get people talking. One thing that I did in my final year of uni was that I tried to sort of like kind of remaster a little section of Bully as like an environment, because I knew that was a game that was very anticipated. It was something that I really enjoyed, and it's just something that kind of got people clicking on it and kind of sharing it, and it's just a way to get your name out there kind of online if sort of kind of interpersonal stuff is a bit more of a struggle for you. I think the other thing as well when you're in game development is to kind of brace yourself for imposter syndrome, because it's going to happen. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna feel it. And I think the phrase of if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life is kind of very inaccurate. The way I feel is that if you love what you do, every day of your life you will work if you can. So kind of like watch out for that. Like, I've done a lot of crunch in my time, and it took way too long for me to realize that that's not sustainable. Like, you've really got to put mental health first and kind of figure out when to apply the brakes. And similarly, if you're in a big team, like, just talk to people, and if you can't do something, don't let the imposter syndrome make you do it. Like, just tell them, I've got too much on my plate, someone help me out.
I think to kind of echo that, as marginalized folks in particular, we feel like we need to push ourselves so much harder than your average white man would need to, like, let's say, to get into the industry, to remain in the industry, to get promoted. And ultimately, like you said, your mental health should not be put at risk because of that. You will find what is meant for you, and you will find a fantastic team. It might take some time, but you will find a place that respects you and values you for who you are, and does not make you crunch, and doesn't make you feel like it doesn't exacerbate that imposter syndrome. You will find your people, basically. Yes, Maxi.
I have actually the best piece of advice I ever got in regards to Wes and Calamity's point of social barriers, right? When I first started in comics, like, this is not even video games, it's like my first start in comics. I was in a London Comic Con, I think, and I was sulking. I was 18 years old. I was like, I don't like being here. I hate people. I'm scared. I was so overwhelmed. And my boss then came to me and said, it's okay, you don't like this. I don't like this either. But when I come to this event, I'm not coming as me. I'm coming as Mr. Important Writer. And Mr. Important Writer loves this today. And he's going to make a lot of contacts, and he's going to have a great time. When I get home, I'll be tired and I'll be myself. But today, just one day, I can make the effort to try a little more and do my best. And ever since, if it's like, okay, I can manage this amount today, I try to do my best, because I know that I'm not going to get this chance again for a long time. So I try to do my best, just that day, use that bit of effort. When I get home, I can rest. I can be like, oh, that was a lot, and just recharge. But that moment, just a little bit more. You can do it. You can do so much more than you think when you just set your mind to it with the right mindset.
That's actually like awakened a memory in me from going to conventions when like a little bit of background, I started out running a blog, like a gaming blog, and that's how I got into the industry. I got a social media management position through essentially fangirling really, really hard online, and was offered a position by the company that I was fangirling about. And when I first started going to events, before I got that job, I had to network, and I was terrified. Like you say, Maxi, like you go and you're like, oh my God, there's so many people, and like, how do I even begin to put myself out there? And there's definitely, I remember having this like persona that I would put on at events that was not necessarily not me, but it was like a bigger, more important version of me that deserved to be there. And it's something that I know a lot of streamers and content creators in particular do as well. You'll have your on-screen version of you and your event version of you, and then you'll have your normal, I'm at home in my pajamas version of you. And that is fine to need to give yourself that little bit of an extra boost to make yourself have that level of confidence. But I do appreciate that's not for everyone. It's not necessarily going to like make a huge difference to certain people. It's you do you, and do what you can, because you do deserve to be in these spaces ultimately. So yeah. I think before we move on to the rest of the questions that we have, we're going to take a little break so that folks can go and grab drinks and recharge and grab some bathroom time. So we'll be away for sort of like 5 minutes or so, folks. So make sure that you're hydrating and stretching out and getting away from the screen for a couple of minutes. And we will be back very, very shortly. So yes, I will see you in a few moments, folks. Catch you shortly. And we're back. I hope you all had a lovely little break. If you didn't hydrate, I'm mad at you. Hydrate right now. Take care of your bodies, please. We are going to get back into the questions. I mentioned this in chat, but feel free if you have any questions that you want to ask to one person in particular. Can also be me if you like, or just generally the group as a whole. Please do throw them in chat. We will have time at the end for audience questions if you have any. So yes, do not be afraid to ask anything. So we're going to get into a little bit more about folks' identities and what it's like working with other queer folks on your team and things like that, and also some of your like favorite representation of favorite LGBTQIA plus representation in games in this next like segment, and then we'll have time at the end for folks who are interested in keeping in touch with these lovely people. We'll have time at the end for them to let us know a little bit more about like their projects and things that they've got ongoing. So yes, so let's kick off with what's it like working with folks in the gaming space who are a part of the LGBTQIA plus community? How do your projects benefit from having marginalized folks involved? Is there anything in particular that has empowered you as a creator as well, especially a queer creator? Maxi.
Well, you know, when your protagonist is a trans-allied bisexual man, you know that the folks have to be kind of queer, right? So most of our team is either trans or bisexual. I think there's like half the team is trans. So that's been a new experience. I had never been able to be around so many queer people on a daily working basis, right? And in one way, there's a lot that comes. Oh, hey, the marching band is back. So, there's a lot that comes with it in terms of like we have been born several times. This is not the right sound for this. We have been born other times by people who were like, you know, like, yeah, you can be yourself, and then you felt like, oh no, I actually can't.
If you like, we can come back to you if it's distracting. Okay, Wes, would you like to tell us about how, if you've worked in teams with other queer folks, like how has that empowered you? Is there anything that you can think of that has specifically like made a difference to you as a creator?
So I think as far as I've experienced, I find the AAA space is slightly less progressive. I think it's because people with big budgets are less willing to take like risks, and I think this is still seen as a risk, as just better representation, which is very frustrating. And I think also because of that, the workforce then kind of attracts the sort of cis heterosexual white male is kind of like predominant in the workforce. So in previous jobs, I've not had half as much diversity, and I think as a result of that, when you're trying to push for something to make it more progressive, you get way more pushback, or you get kind of like sort of like little comments made about, you know, oh, that's silly, or like yeah, you know, the typical derogatory comments I'm sure everyone's experienced. And I think it's really nice because having stepped into the indie scene, it's night and day. Like it's amazing. Like the first day, just having sort of trans people or the queer people just as part of the team, and even the people who are sort of cis het are still super like just open to it all. And it was really nice because as soon as I joined, my pronouns being he, they, like people sort of defaulted to they, even though I prefer he, him. It was just amazing being amongst people who just accepted that as just like a thing. It wasn't weird, it wasn't like something to sort of poke loads of questions about, it was just fine. And it's amazing because then when you've got ideas about how you can improve progression, when you know that you're in a safe space of people who are there to listen, you're more confident in kind of just going for it and throwing ideas into the mix, because you're not having to constantly be that advocate on your own, kind of in a sea of people that don't care.
This is bizarrely something that me and Maxi were speaking about a few weeks ago, about how like this should be normal. It should be the norm, and I think the fact that there is so many marginalized queer folks in indie shows that there is a need for these spaces, and like, I can't wait until it becomes normal in AAA. And I've been there right with you, having to like fight for things where it's like literally just having a crumb of representation in AAA has to be put through so many, like you have to jump so many hurdles to get there. And it shouldn't be that way, which is why I think we're seeing such a huge amount of support for indie games, not because of the representation in them, but because it's just a normal part of the game. It's not necessarily the game's whole identity or the team's whole identity. It's just normal people making games, and people want to support that, and it's fantastic. So yeah. Maxi, how is the marching band looking?
They're looking away. So yeah, I was saying, when you have all these queer people who have been kind of born by AAA, or maybe they even never had their start, there's a little bit of trauma you have to work around, right? You have to reassure people once and again, like, this is a safe space, and and it's not just putting a plaque somewhere and saying this is a safe space. No, it's putting the work in to show it. In any kind of allyship, you have to put in the time and the resources and the training to show it. I don't have to rely on the fact that, oh yeah, everyone's going to be cool with this. No, like, people take the steps to say, this is our working culture. This is how everyone is expected to behave. We held you to this standard, right? And it's so refreshing to have that. Because when I was working in comics, for example, I worked in the equivalent of AAA in comics, right? And you never knew what you were going to get. Like, oh yeah, oh, homophobic comment. Why, thank you. Right. I have to work with this person. Cool. I don't have a choice. Nice. So that's the thing, right? Like, here, I get to not only work with people, but I have the power to hire them. I have the power to say, I really want more diversity in all the aspects here, and I get to go the lengths to do that, which is something I had never experienced before. Like, just help aiding that culture in general. Because here's the thing: if you don't work on your company's culture, it's going to become toxic as default. Like, that's a universal truth. Everyone has to put in that effort, and it's just so rewarding to work somewhere you would like to work. So yeah, that's it.
If you end up following Maxi on Twitter, they put out casting calls, and it's like, no, I would like these specific people because I want to make sure that this person that they are playing is represented by people like them, and that is like amazing. Every time I see a casting call, there's Maxi like, no, you're not fitting this at all. Like, I want these people. So it's incredible to see, and you're absolutely right that like you have to work on it from the ground up. It's not necessarily something that's just going to happen, and it's really hard to shift those barriers out of the way in AAA, which is like why, like you say, you can walk into an indie team and it be 50% trans folks, and that's like, wow, that's amazing. Like, why is that not a thing everywhere? So yeah, because like you say, it's difficult to have people who have not necessarily come into contact with people with the people that they are trying to put representation in for. So diversifying your teams and working towards having consultants, even just like proofreaders, sensitivity readers, like that is like a baseline that should happen for everyone. And even better, hire the people, like Maxi said, hire people to work on your games that will bring diversity to the team, not just because of their diversity, but because having diverse ideas and backgrounds and experiences creates a better, more interesting product at the end of it. So, because you don't want, we're all bored of the sad mad dads, aren't we? Like, so yeah. Calamity, how has working with diverse teams improved your ability to create and empowered you?
Just in everything that everyone else has said before, I just have to echo that diversity is not a check mark. It's not a checkbox to be marked off, but a thread that should be woven in everything you do. And I'm very passionate about that. And sort of speaking about that trauma that Maxi mentioned is something that I came in contact with and struggled with first with my first production group, because we had a trans a non-binary and also a Pakistani member. So we had people who had faced all sorts of discrimination and terrible things. And the very first thing that I realized that I had to like address with the group was that trauma, was, you know, that default of feeling like they have to ask permission, feeling inadequate, of saying, oh, sorry, I actually have this disagreement. I'm like, we're supposed to be making a game together. Like, yes, disagreements are going to happen. And yeah, I've been fortunate to work in pretty diverse groups from the moment I started, because I did start with Code Coven, and they do really promote marginalized identities in everything they do. And that sort of became a baseline for me as well. So when I did move from working with that team for the apprenticeship into making a actual game studio out of it with Mundane Magic, making sure that I do intentionally put in, what am I trying to say? Sorry, I lost my words. Intentionally trying to make sure that from the ground up, I build the culture that I want, and I'm intentional about it, and I'm open and honest about it, because if you don't like that, you're not going to fit in here, and that's just that. And if you don't like for people to be represented accurately and the characters to be created by the people who know what that experience is like, yeah, it's really set the standard, being part of those groups, for what I do and what I want to create in this space, for sure.
Yeah, it's usually painfully obvious when people have written a character or designed a character and they don't actually have any experience with people that are that person, you know, because ultimately the people that are going to do the best job with a character's identity are, or like a place, you know, or like a movement or a hairstyle or a voice. They're the people that know that and live that, and they're going to, like, obviously they're going to be the best people for it. So I don't understand why it's not like commonplace to just get these people to do the jobs. So yeah, is there any like examples that you can necessarily think of where having LGBTQIA plus members on the team has created something within the game, like to kind of speak to this whole, like, you should be, like, diversity should be woven in, it shouldn't be a tick box or like an add-on, you know? Is there anything that you can think of that either you yourself have directly caused in a game, or team members, or like there's an instance of having, because those people are on the team, you've had something happen in the game that wouldn't necessarily have been there? Wes?
So there's some things in my current job that I can't say, but yeah, in AAA, it was very few and far between. I think the uphill battles that I did win, that are like really small, but I'm still quite proud of because it was quite an uphill battle, was one example is in Sackboy. There's like a ton of like costumes that you could dress your character up in, and I think regardless of Sackboy's like sort of gender identity, they still had things like there's just gendered names for the costume pieces. So like a dress was like Cupcake Girl and stuff like that, and like an eyeliner was like I don't know, it was like Sack Girl Eyes or something like that. And I pushed really hard to just like neutralize all of those, because it's like, it's eyeliner, it's a dress, it doesn't have a gender, like it doesn't matter, so why call it that? And it did finally go through, which was really nice. So like there's no gender terms in any of those, which is really nice. And then I think on Hitman as well, I think because they were a really lovely sort of friendly bunch, and they had sort of like a bit of diversity, but it still wasn't kind of like the standard that I think we'd ideally want. Some of the original concepts for things like characters and that were a lot more sort of sexualized for female characters than I think was appropriate or made any sort of logical sense. So a couple of those did get kind of like toned down in terms of that kind of like teenage boy fantasy, and it just made like a little bit more kind of logical. So I guess those are the two that spring to mind.
That's amazing they're having all the gendered terms removed, because like I've been there, like I know one of the biggest hurdles we faced on Assassin's Creed Odyssey was buffing up Cassandra, because execs were like, no, skinny lady, and we were like, no, buff lady. You know, just having like non-gendered or not the typical women in games, you know, is such a battle. So like the fact that you managed to succeed with that is incredible, and like I'm proud of you. That's amazing. And it makes me so happy that games are kind of doing that as more of a commonplace thing now as well. It's less of a battle now because people had that battle before. So yeah. Maxi, how about you? Is there anything that you can think of, having worked on a ton of queer games?
Okay, so the thing about March Vice, right, is like the original character was this white, this head lion somehow, right? Who was like 40 years old and stuff, and we were like there were like 3 other people who were trans in the team, and we were like, your lion is trans now, and why? And he's 20 years old and very hot. So that was really fun to just kind of live through that, because we push really hard to change and to, you know, like even the person who was the writer back then was a cishet man, and even he realized like it is a very queer story. Why am I writing this? And he decided to step down, and we hired someone else who better represented the game we wanted to make, right? So by making this game, somehow most of the team turned bisexual. So that and furry and bisexual. So that's been pretty fun to just kind of like make someone, everyone is like, oh wow, this person is so attractive. Oh no, what? I'm learning a lot about myself, you know. So that's been my greatest achievement, making a lot of people bisexual and furry.
I love that, like, this is something that I have obviously like considered in the past, but it's nice to have a reminder that by having diversity in your media that you consume, you realize things about yourself. Like, honestly, one of the biggest things for me was playing Life is Strange as like a 19, 20-year-old and being like, yeah, I'm gay. Like, just having that like hit me and be like, yeah, this is not like, I don't want to, like, I feel like a lot of bisexual women in particular go through this, of like, or femme presenting people, to kind of generalize it a bit more. Like, you see something and you're like, oh, do I want to be her or do I want to kiss her? And like having that kind of representation to make you think, oh, well, actually, you can like femme presenting and mask presenting people, and that's normal because it's in a game, so it must be normal, you know? Having that is just so empowering. So
like, that's always make things you want to see in the world. You don't need to just make the things you think your audience will like. Make things you as a person want to see in the world, and so many other people will want them too, you know? Like,
yeah,
nothing is ever niche. There's always so many people who are like, oh my god, that's exactly what I wanted, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, like, it was really interesting playing the Hayseed Night for the first time. Me and Maxi like worked on it a little bit together over like, oh god, when was it? 4 years ago now? 5 years ago? Something like that. So I got to play it when it was still it was like one chapter, you know? It was very early on, and I was like, I don't think I've ever played anything like this before. This is amazing. And just like having that is so cool. So yeah, it's being able to make those kinds of games for yourself and make those experiences for other people to have is awesome. Calamity, is there anything that you've managed to like, not like swing in a project, but anything that you're particularly proud of where you've had a direct impact, or having LGBTQIA plus people on the team has had a direct impact on the project?
Yeah, when we were making Mariposa Valley, when we started making Mariposa Valley, which is the game that we were working on for the Code Covenant Intensive, it was really cool to see how excited everyone got about weaving like parts of their identity into the game. We didn't even get to include everything, unfortunately, that we wanted to. But you know, if you look back at the narrative and everything, like, we were very intentional about like pronouns, and we were very intentional about like making sure like things weren't like too like gendered, and just being making all that stuff just a normal part of this world. It wasn't like, by the way, this person is like, you just happen to see a trans flag in this person's room, and just that small representation, and also being able to just make it like that realization of like, I can just make this a part of the world because this is how it should be, is just really special. So being able to do that, and then we also had a lot of BIPOC people who are part of the team, so also getting to weave our cultures into it as well. So we had a trans Middle Eastern woman as our lead, and just it's very nice. And then also, which recently got kind of announced on another game I'm working on called Himbo Harem Homicide. It's like a Clue-like game where you play with a bunch of himbos, but something that is really cool for me, like I wasn't part of this, I got to be part of announcing it, but there is an arrow and an ace option as well. And as somebody who is on the asexual spectrum, that meant a lot for me. Even though like I think I'm the one writing all the like all the lines, you know, that are spicy, to know that that's an option is really just really nice for people, especially that you can go through this game and also like have it be platonic, even though it is a silly game about a bunch of muscular dudes. And it's just being able to be part of that is, it's not so much I did it, but being able to be part of that is something I'm proud of.
I feel like this is like a fantastic segue into my next question about like, what's your favorite examples of queer representation in games? Because like you saying about it being subtle and just needing to just sort of be there just always brings me back to that screenshot of Celeste, where there's like one shot where there's like a trans and a pride flag in a scene, and people got really angry that there was so much color in the scene, and it's like if you zoom out they're like this big on the screen and like just having that kind of representation there then makes people feel like it's normal, you know, because it is. And having just very subtle, like one of my favorite examples of like trans representation in particular, I was playing Alba's Wildlife Adventure, which is a game about a little girl who goes on holiday to like be with her grandparents on like a Mediterranean island, and you literally just like take pictures of birds. And it's like that's the whole game, and it's great, and you have to like record all the different birds and you stick them in your scrapbook and then they like make noises and stuff, you know. It's adorable. And there's a trans character in that is not like they're just a person on the beach. They're just someone, I think they have a side quest involving ice cream or picking up litter or something, and they have top surgery scars, and it's like just having that just there is like, so many people were like, wow, look, that's like me. And that kind of stuff is always great, and I get really excited about it for like my friends and stuff that feel represented in that form of media. So yes, is there anything that you can think of that's like your favorite or like notable experiences in games where there's been representation that you hadn't necessarily seen before, or one that had like a real impact on you? Maxi?
So I'm drawing a super blank in games, but like I can tell you like the very first one I saw, like nowadays the thing about representation is it always evolves, right? Like what was representation to you like at some point, it may not be so much now, but you are always like, that moment was very important to me. So in particular for me, Persona 4 was that moment. Like nowadays I can look back and be like, but back then it was a big moment for me. It was like the character of Naoto was like, oh my god, like they have gender feelings. This person has feelings about gender, my god, right? And nowadays I don't think that's, maybe like for some things that wouldn't be good representation, or maybe like the thing is like the moment where you see someone where you think like, this is a person and this person is like me, that can come in so many forms. To just be like, the one thing that's true is like I saw them and I was like, I'm gay. What? She's a woman. What? But I'm a woman. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I'm bi. Yeah, that was the big moment. I was 15 years old. I was like, gasp, right? So, see that the marching bands come for me to applaud. So that's the thing, right? Like, it doesn't even have to be like the best representation ever, but sometimes when you get like when you're starting out and you don't know anything and you see that little crumb of like, that me, like that can change your world. So always push for that, you know, like it's so good to be like, oh my god, that's me, even if it's just this tiny bit. Next time it will be this big, and next time it will be this big, you know, like make that step to fight. It's worth it. So yeah.
Calamity, what are your like favorite examples of queer representation in games?
So I gotta take a moment to nerd out about Validate. I'm so excited for that game to come out. It's a sort of like dating sim game, and there's so much like varied representation when it comes to race as well as like being queer and such, and like the different paths you can take with everything. It's such a well done game that you can tell like so much care went into that accurate representation, but it's because the writers are there. Like the writers know that. So that's one that is extremely important to me. I will say Life is Strange, even though I didn't come out for maybe like, how long has Life is Strange been out? That came out
10 years. It was
10
the
years.
10-year anniversary this year. Yeah, I know.
So I remember playing Life is Strange, and at the time I was still living with my parents, and I kept having to like hide the fact that I was playing it because I knew kind of what was involved in it. And even though I didn't come out for another like 6-7 years, I still remember that being something that I was like, oh, I can like consider this as a thing. Interesting. And the fact that it was so interesting to me, I should have started just suspecting, but we got there eventually. We got there eventually. But yeah, that was another one that was really, really big for me as well. But one that is just doing so many incredible things when it comes to representation, especially the queer community, is Validate. And just the like the body diversity, like there's just so much diversity, and it just seems so real, even though it's slightly ridiculous and honestly very cute. Anyway, I could go off about Validate. I love it so much.
I'm really excited to see what Coral Island does as well in terms of like diversity. And speaking of like romancing and dating in that kind of regard, like Coral Island has said that they're going to do all of these different things, and they have like a super diverse roster of characters in the town and stuff. It's essentially, if you're not familiar with it, it's like a Stardew Valley type game where you're a farmer on an island, but it's all set in is it Southeast Asia where it's set? It's like tropical kind of islands basically, and there's like underwater like mermaid towns and things, and but like they've said that you'll be able to like date everyone basically, but everybody has like different like all the characters have their own sexualities and things, so you'll have to date within that and stuff, but it's diverse sexualities and identities as opposed to it being like you can be gay or you can be straight, like a lot of games. And I think they saw the kind of attention that the Stardew Valley LGBTQIA plus mods were getting, and they were like, we're just gonna make this a part of the game because clearly people want it. So having that is incredible. So yeah, I'm excited for that one too. Same with Validate, just having the characters there is amazing. Wes, how about you? What kind of queer representation is like your favorite example in games?
Yeah, I think mine's kind of interesting because I think being half white, half Asian, and I think in terms of like gender and sexual identity, I haven't got it all figured out yet. Like the labels at the moment that I use of like gender fluid and bisexual are very much placeholder terms because I just still don't really know what's going on. And I feel like that casual representation that Calamity mentioned is something that is really important for that. I think as far as existing games go, it's a bit of a tricky one. I think one thing that I really liked was in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, how you could at any point toggle the gender of your character, and I just thought this is really neat because like sometimes I want to play as a female character, sometimes I want to play as a male character, and that was lovely. But there's a big difference between representation and player expression, because at the end of the day, like if you're toggling the character's gender at will, you're kind of playing your fantasy out through that character. It's different to having a character that is predefined in that world who is kind of of a sort of gender identity. So I think for me, I've never really found anything that resonates with me, and I'm still kind of holding out for that day, or maybe I'll make a game that kind of like expresses it in some way at some point. I think just notable recent games that I've played that sort of touch on that, though, I've really liked how, spoiler alert for Unpacking, if you haven't already played it, just like mute and go play it first. But the last stages of that, I think, when you move into an apartment and there's just like, I think by this point you've established that you're probably playing as a female character, and there's just like dresses already in the wardrobe and you're moving in, and the way that it's not a thing, it doesn't matter, it just is, I think was just really lovely. It's this like this really subtle note of just like, yeah, this doesn't matter, it's just, yeah, it's just how it is. I thought that was really lovely.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch the indie scene create all these experiences where it is subtle and just not a big deal. It's just there, which is amazing. Also, Keen in chat has said, does anyone ever fully figure it out in terms of gender and identity and sexuality? And I don't know. I don't think there is an answer to that necessarily. Like, I think that's the beautiful thing about it, is that gender and identity and sexuality can change, and as we have more words and more labels for things, it's going to develop, and you'll find new words to describe you and things that fit better. Yes, Maxi.
Yeah, see, I figured out mine. I am a jacket. I'm just a meat blob with a jacket. That's my gender. Anything else is just labels you put on top to describe to other people. But I'm like, what jacket am I today? Like, just put on a jacket and that's fine. Like, you don't need to make sense to anyone else. You just do whatever feels nice to you.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line of it. Like, we have a lot of discussions about gender identity and sexuality, like on my channel, is just like someone will bring it up and they'll be like, I'm considering trying new pronouns or whatever. And I for one, I'm incredibly grateful that I have a space where people feel like they can do that. They can try new names, they can try new pronouns, they can like test out new identities to see if it's comfy for them in public with relative strangers, and like, a big part of what I talk about when we do have these discussions is I am a cisgender white woman, so I only have so much experience, but my labels are things that I've been comfy with since I was like, I don't know, 19, 20-ish. I'm like, I'm bi, might be pan, not really sure. Bi works well for me, queer works well for me, gay works well for me, and those words mean different things to different people. And I think as long as you kind of try out all these different terms to see what works for you and what feels comfy and what other people seem to, because ultimately labels are ways to describe yourself to others, right? So finding the ones that give you all those little like fuzzy warm feelings when describing yourself to others and having conversations with others about identities, I think that's where you're good to try and land, and it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there. Like, find what works for you, and if it changes, that's fine too. So everyone's evolving every single day. Okay, I'm just like looking through my list of questions now and seeing what we still have left. If folks would like to ask any questions to our lovely guests today, please feel free in the chat. That's totally fine. I will get those added in at the end for you. My gender is non-Newtonian soup, says Turatark. Ames has said, I think for some people labels are super important and helpful, but for others they're just not as important, and that's cool too. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So to go back a little bit to like your sort of roles in games, is there anything in particular? Because I kind of wanted to highlight the fact that you all have all these different things that you do every day, and you've all had all these different roles in different projects. Is there anything that you specifically have any advice that you have to offer about what it's like to work with so many moving parts beyond like using like meetings and calendars and things? Is there anything that you would, any wisdom you have for people that want to be in production or in indie or in a role where you get to touch a lot of different things? Calamity.
I will say one of the biggest things is something Wes sort of mentioned earlier, and that's making sure that like you are okay, making sure that you ask for help if you need it, making sure you say like, hey, I can't handle all this, that's a lot. Because I think that looking back, I could have benefited a lot more from admitting when I was overwhelmed and admitting when I needed to take a step back and admitting when I had bitten off more I could chew. That learning that has been still learning that, but you know, it's very easy to say yes to everything because, you know, especially when you're newer and getting into things, and especially when you are queer or marginal, otherwise marginalized, it's very easy to just kind of agree to everything, but you can't give your best if you're not at your best, you know? And eventually what happens, and I can tell you from experience, is you're going to burn out and you're going to have to drop out of a lot of stuff and you're going to feel like you're disappointing a lot of people. So just from the beginning, assess what you can and cannot handle and know that is okay. That is fine. You don't need to take on 10,000 things. You will be okay. You will still grow and progress.
Wes, do you have anything to add to that?
I definitely think that's the main point. I guess from a practical point of view as well, like I think one thing that you might not expect when you first step into the industry is quite how iterative it is. So just getting used to being able to just like throw stuff away, change it, like however much sort of like feedback comes in, and just being able to react to that and not kind of getting very precious about your work. I think you'll do this weird thing of kind of like juggling a heavy dose of like imposter syndrome, but also like the reluctance to change stuff because you're confident in it, and there's just like a weird balance that you kind of have to find, and it's quite an uncomfortable process, and just being okay with that I think is probably worthwhile.
How about you, Maxi? Is there anything that you can think of that you'd like to impart on people for like project management stuff, other than don't make your first game last 5 years in production? Is there anything that has stood out to you as like, I wish I'd known this for being involved with having to juggle multiple different roles?
If you're looking to take on multiple roles, you're going to get called unfocused a lot. People are going to say you're not able to just focus on one thing. You're just, so that must mean you're not good at anything. And that hurts. That hurts a lot too. And then you do, as Calamity and Wes have said, you have to be like, oh no, look, I can prove it to you. I can do so much. The thing I will tell everyone is set boundaries. Learn boundaries in every aspect, whether it be your calendars. Whether it be like, it's Friday afternoon. You don't send me an email until Monday. Do you understand? No one hears an email until Monday. Because if someone sends an email in Saturday, someone else will reply, and then everyone will be sending emails on weekends. No one sends an email on weekend, for example. Right? That's one I really love to set in every company working, right? Like, you have to. Yeah, there will be always allies, and sometimes they are being very coy about it. So you have to dare them to speak. You have to be there like, are you with me or are you not with me? Will you stand up with me next time that someone cuts me off when I'm speaking? Will you be there with me when someone says something nasty? Because if they come to you only when you're alone, they're like, oh yeah, I feel so much what you just said. That does nothing for me, my dude. Be there for me when I need you. Right? Find out the allies and ask them to do things. Not just, you shouldn't have to, but sometimes you have to tell them like, hey, my dude, my brother, my Joseph, no, Broseph, that's where I was going. So like, like really make your space and make it bigger. Because if you don't take those steps to make your space bigger, it will get smaller. And it will get smaller and you will be alone and you will feel like, oh man, what am I here for? Don't let that happen. You deserve to be there. So if it involves kicking some butts to get there, I fully endorse you. If you need someone to say like, hey, should I kick this ass? I will be there to say, yes, please, don't worry. People will respect you for it. Like, that's what we all fear. Like, we fear like, am I going to get cast out if I stand up for myself, if I say something out of line, if I am myself? You will find people who love you no matter what you do. And again, going back to unfocus, you will find people who are like, oh my god, you do all these things, that's so cool. All of these people here are so cool, right? You will always find someone who understands. So be yourself to the measure you can, to the measure you feel safe. Because every day that bubble will get bigger. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you have so many different skills and so much to offer, like that was very well said. You have to take up your space and know that you can do that and have the confidence in yourself that you can do that, and you will find people that will assist you in that and will empower you to do that as well. But yeah, Ames has said in chat, from experience in the games industry too, Maxi, people can say that they're allies but don't actually speak up when needed, or in smaller situations like being spoken over in a meeting. And like, I've been there. I've had it where I'm a big believer in just keep talking and keep talking louder until the person that's trying to talk over you shuts up. Because I used to work in a very white, mask-presenting centric area, like being within Ubisoft, you expect that, unfortunately. And it reached a point where people started to see what I was doing, and they would be that person that would step in and say Ellie was speaking, you know? And I feel like it's also important to say that don't feel like you need to fight this stuff if you don't have the energy for it as well. Don't feel like if you're already putting out all of your energy into creating and into just being in the space, please don't feel like as a marginalized person, it is your responsibility to make these changes happen. If you only have the energy to be, that is fine too. And find the people that will empower you and support you and uplift your voice without you needing to be that person that puts in all the extra effort, you know? So yes. I do want to talk a little bit, like people have mentioned different groups that they've been part of and different schemes that they've been involved in and things. Is there anything in particular that you think is an important organization or program or online space or physical in-person space that you would like to share with up-and-coming game devs to help support them? Maybe it's something that you've been a part of, like Code Coven for Calamity. Is there any groups or spaces in particular that have been really beneficial to you and helped you grow and find your feet and be empowered within the gaming space? Wes?
I think for me, not particularly. I think I'm not that active in a lot of those sorts of communities. I think my social battery is really small, and I think that is it just kind of takes it over the edge. So I don't tend to engage too much for myself. I think one thing that did help me though a lot was sort of biting the bullet and moving from AAA to indie, because I think when you're in a job and you've sort of finally gotten into the industry or whatever, you've sort of laid your roots there and you've been there for a while, it's very scary to sort of jump ship. And I think just being aware of the fact that there are other companies out there that have way better representation and diversity is definitely worth taking the leap for. So it's not necessarily that useful for like getting into the industry, but I think when you are sort of job searching around, like don't be disheartened if the first few that you find are all kind of like cishet white men. Like there are other companies out there with way more diversity, so just keep looking. There'll be one out there.
It's a real double-edged sword, isn't it, between wanting to help people diversify and also not wanting to be in a space where you're going to be the person that has to make that happen, which is what I meant by like, don't feel like you need to do that. If you don't have the energy, that's fine. You take care of yourself and make sure that you are happy and growing and thriving, because if you're in a position where you're in a company that is full of cishet white men and there is no diversity, unfortunately, it's often put on marginalized folks that are hired and diverse folks that are hired to do that work, and that's not fair. So don't feel bad if you don't want to be that person. That's not on you, you know? Like Wes says, shop around, look for different places where you're going to feel comfortable, and like if somebody offers you a position and you don't want to take it because it's not at a comfortable level of diversity for you, tell them that. Because chances are, if they're willing to take a chance on you and they want you in their spaces, they would be willing to put in the work to make you more comfortable. Or it might be the wake-up call that they need to do that work, you know? So, yeah. Maxi, have you had any groups or like online communities or things that have made an impact with you and that you'd like to share with people?
Well, I've never been long in like one specific community because I'm kind of like Wes, my social battery is a lot smaller than it seems. You know, I am very big for like meetings and stuff, and then I go like, hey, bye everybody. But for me, Twitter made a huge difference. I met so many people through Twitter that's how I found out I'm trans. That's how I found out a lot of people. You know, like I never had much of a community, but for example, that works for me because I get to scream at the world, and sometimes the world screams back, and that works for me. You know, so maybe you work better for, I don't know. Do you love making videos of yourself and then dancing? TikTok is for you. Oh my God, right? So you find your niche for communicating. Like if you don't like going and being like, okay, cool, I have to meet with someone in this group at 7 and stuff like that. Cool. Find your own niche. Find your own way. There will be people no matter where you go. It's all about finding the right culture for it, right? Like, there are several groups for developers, regardless, that meet every so often, that make, you know, like social events and stuff. So there's not a lack these days, thankfully, to meet. Even though I am in backwater town Spain, I get to meet with all kinds of folks, right? So these days there's so many places where you can go.
Calamity, other than Code Coven, is there anything that's been super beneficial to you for finding your feet and like giving you that head start?
Yeah, Code Coven again has been incredible, and the people involved with it have been really foundational in developing what I want to do in this industry. But there is another group that I joined before that called Brown Girl Gamer Code, and they are more in like the streaming space, but they also are big on like technology and representation and everything. So that has been a beautiful space of Black and brown women and femmes who are able to sort of say, hey, I want to try this out, or hey, I'm feeling a certain way. It's a safe space. It truly is a group of people who just want to see other people thrive, who just want to see each other do well. So if someone's like, hey, I've actually been thinking of like getting into games, like everyone's excited for you. Everyone's like, show me your next thing. And like people will DM you and say, hey, I saw this opportunity and I thought of you. So that has been an amazing space to feel comfortable branching out and feel comfortable trying new things and exploring different options. So that is another group that I will say has been absolutely incredible, and very, very fortunate to be a part of that group.
Yeah, they do fantastic things. I'm always like, I follow them on Twitter and keep up with like what they're doing and stuff, and I'm always like, wow, this is amazing. Look at these people go, and it's great. It seems so supportive and wonderful. So yes, do get in touch with them and try and get into that program if in that group if you are interested. So we have a couple of questions from folks in the chat as well. Which I have lost because I'm an amazing host. So do you think that the games industry is improving? If so, what's a notable thing that made you realize that there's change happening? And that's from Ames in chat. So Maxi.
It definitely is improving. And you know what made me see that? GDC. Going where there's none. You know, like, no, like actually, like, you could see in the event there were like the people who were queer and all the races and all the identities and all the sexualities, right? And then you went to the economy section. It was like, I see, yes, I see. So it was amazing to see, like, okay, I can see why there's where's the bottleneck, right? But getting to hang out with people I had just talked to, like I had this vague idea that you exist, but you're real. Oh my God! Wow! look at this. Like, the talk I got to give in GDC was equal opportunity fan service, right? And I was like, no one's going to come here. And when we got in the podium thingy, and I looked at the room, it was full of people, and it was totally packed, and it was all diverse people. And it was like, oh crap, people do actually want to see this, like this. There's people. Oh my god. I am being very articulate right now about that.
No, I remember chatting with you after you'd given the talk, and you were like so excited that the room was full of diverse people. And like, I don't know, 10 years ago, talks like that wouldn't have even been at GDC. So just simply that being a thing is a sign of change. As slow as it's going, like, it's amazing. Calamity, do you have any, like, let me reread the question for you. Do you think that the games industry is improving? And if so, what's a notable thing that made you realize that the change is happening? Is there any examples that you can think of?
Yes, it's changing. And even if it's not so much in what most people like see and get to access, it is definitely there. You just truly have to look for it, because I see people all the time who are like, whoa, like this exists, like, whoa, I didn't realize that existed. Because what a lot of this industry pushes is like the bigger AAA games and such who do not have the same representation. But I'm trying to think of like a notable thing. I can't think of one off the like right now, but I will say that I have been very fortunate to be part of a lot of groups who are inclusive and queer and diverse, and that has been absolutely incredible, because I just keep meeting more people who are queer and otherwise diverse, and we're out here. Like, we're out here. And even though like on the grand scale we might not be getting the same attention at a lot of like the bigger events and such, it's starting, and we're getting there. I of course would like to see much more rapid and consistent and intentional improvement, but it is slowly but surely getting better.
Yeah, when I think back to like when I broke into the games industry, I was like getting on for probably 8-9 years ago now, there was no women to look up to. Like, it was all men, and the networking was all men. And I was like, I don't have anyone that is in my position that I can speak to that isn't like super famous game dev level, that was like just a normal person that could, not even be like a mentor, just to talk to. And the fact that like you can just join these spaces now and there's already people like you is like, wow, this is amazing. So it was always like a thing that I wanted to do as I was growing in this space, is grow my platform so that I could be like, hey, I want to help people like doing this. I wanted to give you all this platform to meet people that will be like, hey, they look like me. They have the same like history as me. They are doing the role that I want to do. There are people like me in this space. And like, it's great that that is even a thing that exists right now. So like you say, it is slow, but it's happening, and it's growing in power and speed as we go. So Wes, how about you?
Yeah, I think I echo both of those points. I think it's moving quicker in indie again than it is in AAA. I think there's more accountability, which is really nice to see, because it kind of forces the sort of suits at the top to they kind of have to pay attention. I'm a little bit skeptical, because I think at the moment in the industry there's a lot of buying out going on, and depending on who's buying out who, I think will really influence which way progression goes, or like how quickly it goes, or whether it slows down or not. I'd like to think that it will ramp up, with my sort of optimist's hat on. I think at the moment we've got a bigger push to get more diversity into the industry, but because of the people who currently are higher up in those companies, they generally hire for junior and sort of like much more kind of like bottom rung kind of job roles. I think it will take a while for those people to move up the ladder to get into the positions where they have a bigger influence, and I think that's when you'll see more change. So it will take a little while for us to get there, but yeah, fingers crossed it will.
This kind of goes back as well to like not burning yourself out by trying to do everything and be the person in those situations that improves things, because it's a serious issue. We need more diverse people in senior roles in game dev, and more often than not, the diverse people have to work so hard to reach any kind of seniority that they are done by the time they get there and they don't want to be there anymore. Like, I did 7 years in the games industry, burnt out, and now I'm a streamer. And like, that suits me much better. And I'm like, every time I think about going back in, I'm like, do I want to be that person again that has to do all the fighting? And it's okay if you don't feel like you can do that. We need people to stay in the industry, and that's not always the easiest thing to do, and that's okay. So yeah, please don't feel like you have to burn yourself out by trying to be that person that does all the representation and works so hard on all that kind of stuff. Is simply existing in the space is more than enough. So yeah. Okay, we have one final question from Ames again, and then we'll do a little bit of wrap up. So feel free to, you can skip this question if you don't feel comfortable answering it, that's totally fine. But do you feel like within your role, you are able to be fully open in yourself about your gender and sexual identity, like in your workplace? Calamity.
I would say, because I am more freelance, and again, I've been very fortunate to be involved in a lot of diverse spaces from the get-go. Yes, I will say definitely I have been. I haven't really been in situations where I haven't been around a lot of like queer or people of color. So if I got into other like maybe more bigger events and situations, probably not as much. But yeah, I would say so. And it's been cool to be able to do that. I'm again very fortunate. It's not like that for everyone.
Wes, how about you? Do you feel like you can be open about your sexuality and gender and identity at work, or is it something that you kind of don't really bring up unless it's asked about?
I'd say no, but there's like a little bit of a justification. I think in my previous job, definitely not. I think there was some people that I could confide in, which was great, and sort of like, you know, lean on them for support and kind of like figure stuff out and bounce sort of like thoughts around with them. But generally speaking, I think it's not something that it's just not something that a lot of the people could have related to. Like they sort of fit into that cishet white male kind of like category. So yeah, I don't think I felt very confident in that situation. In my current job, I would say I'm as open as I feel I need to be for a job. I feel like anything that holds me back further than that is a societal problem. Like it's a bigger scale thing. I think that everyone that I work with at the moment is absolutely wonderful. They are so caring and like supportive, and you can just tell that, you know, they want you to be as happy as possible, which is really refreshing and really lovely. But yeah, I just think society's not quite there yet where I could say that I'm fully like open about everything.
And there's definitely a level of sometimes needing a professional boundary as well, isn't there? Because like gender identity and sexuality is a very personal thing. Like it's personal to each person. It's different, you know. So I totally appreciate that. Like I'm very much in the same boat that in workspaces I was like, if the representation was needed for somebody to be like, hi, gay person here, I'll help with this kind of thing. Like I was that person that would do that because I didn't really care. But it's not like I was super open about it. So I appreciate that it can be difficult to find that balance as well. And it's, like you say, different with different companies and different workplaces and teams. So yeah. How about you, Maxi? Is it something that I know you're very, for lack of a better term, loud and proud. So
What gave it away? I happen to be very privileged in my life in general, in where I am in my career. It wasn't always the case, but being that I am two very invisible things, which is bisexual person with a man, and bisexual trans man who is not hormonating and who is not binding. It's like I felt the need to be like, hey, did you know I'm trans and bi? Have I measured it today? So it's very much still like that. It's like if I wore it in front of me. It's like, if you're not okay with this, you're not getting my talents. And that's how I go about life. It's like, you want this, you want me to work with you, you will make it work. If there's someone else in here who's not agreeing with that, well, you have to choose. It's me or it's them, but it cannot be both. It can't, like, if I am going to work anywhere where someone will be like, well, I don't get why you're trans, I'll be like, yo, we have a problem here.
Well, I don't get why you're working here. Like,
so yeah, I'm not a social justice warrior. I'm more like a barbarian. Okay, so very much. I'm very proud of the fact that over the years I've gotten to be in a place where I can just scream at people and they will not kick me out immediately. So that's good. I'm glad to do that for others who are not in a position to do that right now.
That makes me want to cry a little bit. Like, I'm genuinely getting emotional. Yeah, it's wonderful to have people like you in the games industry, honestly. Like, all of you, like, I'm so proud to be in this space with you lot, like, and to have you as a part of this group that is wanting to help others. And I think it's really refreshing to hear so many different experiences just in this chat alone, like in the last couple of hours. And I really hope that people have got something at least from this. I'd love it if you could take away like a little thing from this. But yeah, I can't thank you all enough for being a part of this and for joining me today and sharing your experiences and being so candid and open and honest and forthcoming, and just being yourselves in the games industry alone is like, it's great. So we'll do a little roundup. You all can share where people can find you online, the kind of projects that you're working on right now, if you're able to share, and things like that. Anything that you would like to share at the end here for promotional purposes. So I'll go like around my screen. So Wes, if you want to go first.
Sure. So I guess the Twitter handle I think is somewhere already.
It should be in the title, I think.
I've also got a sort of like portfolio website, which you can find through my Twitter, and then also through that I have like a little boat account where I sort of document various travels and things. So those are the main places where you can find me on the internet.
Calamity.
So you can find me, mostly I'm active on my like more content creation space when it comes to the internet. So that's Princex Calamity. And you can find anything content creation there. I do also talk about a lot of like dev stuff and like things I'm involved in on there. But I do also have a more dev Twitter, and that is Cal is Creating. From there you can find like my portfolio. I'm still trying to figure out how to like integrate everything because there is so much I do. But if you want to see more of like that work and such, that is Cal is Creating, and there's a link in there to my portfolio, which links to all the projects I've worked on and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
And Maxi to finish up.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at SandraMJDev. I actually don't know if I can say J right. J. Yeah, Sandra MJ Dev as in developer, right? That's where you go to follow me. I don't do the whole separating thing. You get me posting art and you get me crying. So cool. Other than that, I am the creator of The Hazed Night, which is a visual novel you can buy. You can give me money. And lastly, if you want to hire me, you go to sandramj.dev. That is my portfolio site. You go there right now and you hire me, right? You hire everyone here, actually. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, seriously, thank you all so much for being here again. This has been wonderful. This has been such a great chat, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your days to join me today and for putting in all the effort with the planning and everything. And yeah, I appreciate you all very, very much. I'm going to do a little bit of wrap up. So goodbye, lovely guests. I will talk to you right after we finish the stream. And I appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, we are going to find somebody lovely to raid into. Thank you all so much for joining me today on this. It's been incredible. Like, I'm so grateful and thankful to be surrounded by so many amazing people in this industry. Like, sometimes it sucks, more often than not it's great. The people are fantastic, and if you needed any other, like, reason to be getting into games, like, go for it. There's people like this everywhere. And I'm so glad that we managed to highlight so many amazing people. I will be back on Thursday with another panel with the lovely folks from Himbo Hunter, which is a new game that's coming out soon-ish. We'll be having 3 of their dev team on, which is super exciting. I can't wait to chat with them. Make sure to submit any questions either via my Twitter. If you know who I am, I'm Ellie Joy Panic. Should probably have said that at the start, but it's on the screen, so it's all good. Yeah, you can submit them via my Twitter, or you can submit them through the It Gets Better Project Twitter too. So yeah, I will see you all again on Thursday. We are going to raid... Shall we raid GP, Joyful Jupiter, or B? Oh, let's go see B. B is lovely. So yes, we're gonna go see Queerly B. Do we have a raid message? Do we have something that we can send over there? Let's just do... I'm terrible at raid messages off the cuff. Yes, thank you, Sulky, you're a star. Okay, so if you can copy and paste that raid message into B's chat when we get in there, that would be fantastic. Thank you all so much again for hanging out. It's been wonderful. I'm super proud to be doing this. I have been your host, Ellie Joy Panic. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Ellie Joy Panic. I stream most days of the week, full-time content creator, playing hard and soft games and raising money for charity. So yes, I will see you all on Thursday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. If I don't catch you then, yeah, thank you so much again for joining. I appreciate you all very much. Enjoy B's stream. I'll see you soon, folks. Take care. Bye.